I don't have the email that my team sent me. Alright, this is Locker Room A and J, man. We're back again, man. We have entertainment and sports lawyer Mr. Jeffrey Kravitz calling in a few seconds.
He's on.
Oh, he's actually on. Mr. Kravitz, how are you this morning?
Good morning. How are you?
We're well. How are you, sir?
Doing wonderfully. On the West Coast, it's a little bit earlier than where you guys are.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you waking up to give us a call. How's everything going out on the West Coast?
Wonderfully. Going to be another perfect day. Just don't move out here.
Why is that?
We got lots of people.
Absolutely. And they're all leaving the East Coast to come to the West Coast. Oh, wow. I dropped my microphone. I'm sorry. And Mr. Kravitz, tell us a little bit about what you do in terms of your sports and entertainment side of the law field.
Sure. By training, I'm what they call a litigator, which means I go to court. I like to say people come to me when deals go bad. They often come back to me at a point where they say, hey, look, we got involved in a lawsuit once. We could use a little bit of counseling this time. Always better to try to resolve things before they go to court. That's it in a nutshell. It's a lot of fun. Don't let anybody tell you that it's not. And dealing with athletes certainly presents its own challenges.
And what are some of the, if you don't mind us asking, who are some of the athletes that you've represented?
Well, you know, I can't tell you because that's attorney-client privilege, but I can tell you the kinds of profiles. I've dealt with professional basketball players. I've dealt with professional baseball players. I've dealt with one hockey player out here. And they're household names, but they want to be household names in their own sport and not in the media necessarily.
Absolutely. We totally understand. Now, I did a little research on you, Mr. Kravitz, and pulled up your bio, checked out a few interviews you've done in the past. I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you had litigated against Johnny Cochran?
I did.
How is that? How is he?
He was, frankly, a gentleman, and he was a man of honor. And at one point, he and I reached an agreement over the phone, a handshake deal, and it's customary in my business to say what they call a confirming note. And I said, well, let me send you a confirming note. He said, don't do that. He said, we're both loyal men. We both gone to loyal law school. His point was that it being a Catholic institution, that there should be a higher form of honor between us. And I was gratified when he said that. If he said something, you could book it.
Wow.
Amen.
What has been your strangest lawsuit?
Well, that's interesting. My strangest lawsuit was actually not in sport. It was one where a good client called me up, and he said, I need you to file a lawsuit over my son's bar mitzvah. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, we set a date, and somebody else set a competing date, and I want to fight it out in the court. And I said, this is one that is right for you to go to your spiritual leader and let him decide what's right. And that absolutely was on.
That's interesting. Now, you're also on the board of advisors for the National Sports Marketing Network. Can you tell us a little bit about the network?
Sure. It's interesting. It was founded by a woman named Jen Karp, K-A-R-P-F, and very interesting lady. When she was a little girl, her dad used to take her to Mets games, and everybody else was looking at what goes on the field, and she was saying things like, Daddy, why does it say Pepsi-Cola on the ads? And last year it said Modelo beer. She was interested in the business side of sports, so she founded an organization that is the only national organization to sports executives. And it's a good way for people to connect, find out what everybody else is doing, and get a little helpful advice on occasion.
Wow, that's very interesting. What do you see as the difference between the sports and the entertainment field? And I guess the question I have for our show is how does our show kind of get into that open space where we can be seen a little more, heard a little more, that kind of thing? What would be your advice to a young show like ours?
Sure. A couple of things. Number one, in Los Angeles, you put your tongue in your cheek and you say there is no difference between entertainment and sports. You get a guy like Shaq, kind of natural. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to create humor. And that's why he's got a wonderful career post his playing days. And the two are closely allied. We like to tell people that they need 7 income streams, and one of them sure can be entertainment after they get out of playing. In terms of your own show, it's like most other things in life. It's a question of transparency. You know, get hold of their people, get hold of their agents, let them know what you do, let them know how you can help the athlete, and above all, is what I tell my clients, be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. Okay?
Okay.
I mean, there are any number of young athletes who made the mistake of saying they were going to be the next Michael Jordan. No, there's only one Michael Jordan. Kobe never wanted to be the next Michael Jordan. He wanted to be the first Kobe. We got a young man out here named Lonzo Ball who I think is going to be something special.
Yeah, we just talked about him. Yeah, we totally agree.
And I saw him. I'm a UCLA grad, and I had the pleasure of seeing him play. I think that when he comes into his own, it's going to be wonderful. And part of what's going on with each one of these guys is they never try to be anybody else other than themselves.
That's extremely important, and I think that's great advice for Jay and I. Also, what are some of the legal things? Because we have a couple of interns. We have a young man who's with us who just graduated from college and played basketball. What are some of the legal things that you would consider that athletes need to consider as they go into their chosen field or their chosen sport?
Two things. Number one, again, we're going to stick with the be yourself. Rafael Palmeiro, probably a Hall of Famer. Before made the mistake signing on with one of the male enhancement companies.
Wow.
And when somebody put the microphone in his face and asked him about it, he said, I don't use that stuff. Well, you know, if you're going to sign on and get the money from those folks, you better be using it or don't sign on. In other words, be yourself. If you want to do product endorsements, do product endorsements for something that you use, something that you can honestly say you think is a good product. Number two, guard your money. I always like the line from Kevin Garnett, who said, I have people watching the money, watching people watching the money, watching people watching the money.
Wow.
There are any number of young men and increasingly young women who don't understand that adage. We had a client who wanted to buy 3 Rolls Royces, and we suggested it would be better to try one out on himself. If he liked it, then he could give one to his mom and one to his best buddy. Don't start out buying 3 Rolls Royces. Next piece of advice, mind what you say. We had Mr. D'Angelo out here. He was recording the conversation from one of his teammates. What happens next? He ends up playing in Philadelphia rather than in Los Angeles.
Absolutely.
The only reason, but if you don't think that went into the calculus, think again. Third thing is, if you tweet, it's like shouting it from the rooftop. It's going to get repeated all over the place. James Wood, the actor, recently sued someone who said that he was an addict. The lawsuit ended up getting resolved, but it sure didn't make the other person look good. Or look good.
Wow, that's interesting. Because we talk to our publicist, Martine is our publicist, and she's constantly reminding us we have our own personal social media and then our show social media, and to keep those separate. So it's very interesting that you talked about that. This is Inside the Locker Room with Jay. We're on the phone with Jeffrey Kravitz, top entertainment and sports lawyer in the country.
Inside the locker room more, Anthony and Jay. Inside the locker room more, Anthony and Jay. In this corner, we got in. In this corner, we got Jay. Let's get it. inside the locker room more. Anthony and Jay 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 inside the locker room more. Inside the locker room more.